Hello and welcome to Premier Injuries. Today's video starts off with real sadness due to what we saw with Christian Eriksen today. With this in mind, we did not think it was appropriate to talk about the Denmark vs Finland game. We just want to focus our attention on Christian Eriksen. We want to wish him a speedy recovery. Our thoughts go out to his family, friends and teammates who may have been affected. So the first match we're going to cover today is Italy vs Turkey. That was the 3-0 win, an explosive opening fixture with Italy's hard work eventually paying off with a win that was laid down a marker to all others in the competition. All focus has to be on the Azzurri in this analysis, who were spectacular in their curtain raiser for the Euros, and I do have to give a special mention to Nessun Dorma. What a fantastic opener that was as well. But they controlled the game, they limited Turkish performances to very few shots, and in attack the team were on great form. They had 17 chances in total, 15 shots inside the box, 24 total shots, showing utter dominance. This was also reflected in the XG2 with 1.94 XG accrued. And in defence, Italy were almost in cruise control with only 3 shots in the box conceded and just 1 big chance conceded. A 0.61 XG conceded can make people feel confident that the team will not be allowing many goals in this group stage, because arguably Turkey were the biggest side that Italy had to worry about in this group. So it gives a lift to those that have their defensive assets to keep clean sheets through this group. Adding to this, Italy have now won their last 9 matches without conceding a goal and scoring 28 in the process. They're really in fine form at the moment. Focusing now on the individual players, Ciro Immobile was one of the best players on the pitch and managed a commendable 5 shots in the box with a 0.93 XG and a 1.01 XGI in total. He was the man taking the shots. But I think the one who shocked many, he wasn't necessarily taking many shots, but he was so creative. Spinazzola was man of the match and was absolutely incredible. A lot of people took a gamble on him because it wasn't 100% sure if he would start or not. But as a defender, his data was so encouraging. He had 2 shots in the box, a 0.25 XGI, 6 penalty area touches, which was just second to Immobile, and his heat map was basically as a left winger. He looks like such a fantastic asset. But another popular asset was Insigne, who was busy with 5 total shots, which was fantastic for fan team. It meant that he got extra points for taking shots. Not necessarily that they had to be high quality ones. That's just the fun of fan team rewarding attacking players. 4 of those were in the box and a 0.5 XG. And Berardi walked away as the team's most creative player with the best XA of any player on the pitch and the most chances created with 5. I think what also has to be praised is good man management from Mancini, where players were rested when they needed to be. But there is one worry for a popular fantasy asset in Florenzi coming off with a muscle injury. But of course, Ben and I will be discussing that later in the week when we have all the information to hand. Turkey, we do have to shed some attention on them, but tactically they were sitting back. They didn't want to lose the game and they were absorbing Italy's attacks. This worked for a lot of the match, but then once the own goal mistake came in, Italy's taste for goals came up. Their defence did a good job up until that point, but then there was just a loss of steeliness. This will also add to the worry that their poor defensive form is going to continue into this tournament that was outside of the tournament. In the attack, what I would say is when Yilmaz did get through, he did look good, and he will rue a 0.49 XG opportunity that he had in the 91st minute. It might not have meant anything in terms of getting points in the match, but a 3-1 scoreline might have been more commendable. And also in terms of Turkey in this group, 3-0 or 2-0, or sorry, a 2-goal difference might have helped them get second place or possibly best third place to go through the tournament. So overall, I think this is strength and belief in the Italian side. It's moved them maybe from dark horse to genuine contenders, and Turkey themselves will be focused on getting out of this group. They'll have a lot to play for in the next 2 games, but it will be interesting to see if they can keep clean sheets, where a lot of people have been worried about, and if they can get a little bit more creative. Moving on to Wales versus Switzerland. This was a 1-1 game that Switzerland will be very angry and rue their missed chances as well. They were dominant for long stretches of the match, but their finishing let them down so that they didn't get 3 points. One would assume that Switzerland were a defensive side with the 5-2-1-2 formation that they started off with, but actually it was Wales who played most of the match, absorbing pressure non-stop, and Switzerland dominated possession with 64% of the ball. In terms of individuals, Breel Embolo was looking the best asset in the game. In the first half, he was kept quiet, but he exploded in the second, where his pace and strength caused the Welsh team a lot of problems. He managed 6 total shots, 3 of these being in the box, and he was important to the side in shooting, but also played his part in expected assists as well. He had a 0.79 XG, and he had the second most XA of all Swiss players, only behind Mbambu. So in terms of that, he actually created only 2 chances, but both were big, showing that it's not always quantity, it is quality with him. What is worrying is that he was the main creator for the Swiss side, and so that will make assets, especially the attacking ones, a little bit less light, because he had 4 chances created, but all his XA was accrued from set plays. From open play, he had 0.01 XA. Ward, the Welsh goalkeeper, had a fantastic performance, and he kept his side in the match with 3 saves. And set pieces really made the difference in this match. But for Wales, I think that this just shows that they don't have a lot of quality. They didn't manage to create a lot of good opportunities. They had 0.43 XG to Swiss's 2.19. They had 15 chances created. The Swiss team, whereas Wales just had 6. And so it seems on the data that Wales were very lucky to walk away with a point, and Seferovic will be incredibly angry with himself because he had a 0.43 XG missed opportunity, whereas in comparison Moore's goal was a 0.07 XG shot. So it just goes to show you that sometimes football isn't 100% fair. So we move our attention on to the last game that we are analysing tonight, and it's Belgium versus Russia. It was the 3-0 win that Belgium had over the side. They held complete control of the game, and what I would describe it as is they played as much as they needed to get victory. Lukaku was also clinical and showed why he's such a good asset for the tournament. But one of the big shocks going into the start of the match was notable absences from fantasy community highly owned players Denayer and Meunier. Belgium in this match actually continued to play in a fashion that shows why they are the number 1 ranked side in the world. This victory actually means that they've had 20 wins in the last 23, with the only loss recently being to England. Now, Lukaku had an early goal against Russia because of a defensive error, but I would say ironically that the team kicked into top gear when substitute Meunier came on for the injured Castagne. When Meunier came on, he managed to rack up the most XA on the pitch, a 0.33 XG and a 0.6 XGI in total for his time on the field. He looked fantastic, he looked so attacking, and in terms of his heat map and the way that he played on the pitch, he was playing like a right winger for large expanses of the match, and he also played as an inverted wing back, cutting in to create that goal for Lukaku. He just looked fantastic. Lukaku himself, as mentioned, was clinical. He managed to score 2 goals from his only 2 shots in the box and 3 goals in total. So a 66% shot per goal conversion rate, I would say, is not too bad. What was also amazing was he made his 0.68 XG count. But it's not really surprising for a clinical striker like himself. He's absolutely world class, and he comes into this tournament on such good form. So going into the next matches, he'll be on an absolute high. What I would say, adding to this victory, a positive nature about it was the fact that Belgium can be buoyed being so dominant without two of their biggest stars being on the pitch in Kevin De Bruyne and Hazard. They'll be happy as well that Hazard managed to come on from the 71st minute, but realistically looking at his data, he didn't really have much involvement at all. But it was still good to have him out there. The game was won so that they could kind of try him out on there. And this also makes you think that Belgium can grow into this even more. They got a 3-0 win against Russia. They didn't have to try too hard. And the fact that two of their stars are missing, it seems like this is a team that could even grow into this tournament even more and be even more dominant. And adding to this, the team themselves were not about quantity, it was about quality. They had 5 chances created, but 3 of them were big, which is the most big chances created by any team in the tournament thus far. The only slight negative going from this match will be question marks about Denier, but also Vertonghen. So there could be defensive problems going forward as Vertonghen limped off after a nasty challenge. Shifting the focus to Russia, although there's not much to talk about, they did improve in the second half. They limited Belgium to just 2 shots, but obviously one of those led to a goal. There's big worries about this Russia side now because they only had 3 chances created. None of them were big. Only 2 shots in the box. And this meant that the side actually had the lowest XG of any match in the tournament so far. So a lot of question marks will be over Russia going forward. And what I would praise as well with Martinez was, yes, there were some injuries, but also he did manage the team a little bit well, giving Yannick Carrasco a bit of time off and Dennis Prey coming on. So there was tactical substitutions made as well as necessary ones for injuries. So that is the end of the data breakdown for you with all these teams. Please do tell us if you like these. We're going to be doing these every day in terms of after all the matches are done to give you the most important information so that you can make your choices going forward, because the deadlines are very quick. You've got your captaincy choices to make as well every day if you're playing Fantasy Euro, but in terms of fan team as well, this will help you with those very tight deadlines going from one match day into another. And before we end, I'd just like to remind people to like, share and subscribe to the channel, because we've got so much good content coming out, but also other content focusing on the Premier League going forward into next season as well. There's so much here on the Premier Injuries channel. But for now, I'm going to wish you the best of luck with your teams and enjoy these Euros.